special ratio, and we're going to look at pages 17 through 19. So let's read page. So we're going to answer the question, what if it has infinitely many sides? So question number 77 is titled Polygons with Infinitely Many Sides. To predict the area and perimeter of a polygon with infinitely many sides, your team is going to work with other teams to generate data. We're actually not going to do that. We're just going to do one together. They want us to do all of these. We're just going to do J. Okay? So J is a regular hexagon. It's right above it. It's right here. We're going to do the area of the regular hexagon. Hexagons have 6 sides. That's important because we're going to end up calculating 6 triangles inside of a hexagon. Okay, so we're going to get the area of one of them. Once we get the area of the one of them, we can multiply by 6, and that'll give us the total area of the whole hexagon. Okay, so we start by taking 360, make it just a tad bit bigger, 360 divided by 6, because it's a hexagon, has 6 sides. That tells us that the central angle is 60 degrees. We divide that by 2 to break it into a smaller triangle, and we get 30 degrees. That gives us a 30, 60, 90 triangle. All right? If the radius is 1, we're going to use our ratios of sides for a 30, 60, 90 triangle to get that little side down here. Okay? So from the 30, we want the opposite over the hypotenuse, so we're going to use sine of 30 equals this little length right here, which is opposite over the hypotenuse, which is 1. We end up getting 1/2, which totally makes sense because if you knew this value, you could double it to get the hypotenuse. If you know the hypotenuse, you can divide it by 2 to get the short leg. So half of 1 is 1/2. Or if we were going the other direction, 1/2 times 2 would be 1 whole. Okay? So if this little piece is 1/2, then the whole bottom side of the triangle inside that hexagon would be 1. So if a hexagon has 6 sides, we add 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 6 times, and we get a perimeter of 6. All right. Now we need the area, and first we're just going to get the area of one triangle. Once we get the area of one triangle, we're going to multiply it by 6 to get the area of the whole hexagon. Okay? So the area of a triangle is 1/2 the base times the height. We know that the base is 1 because we just used it for the perimeter, and the height is 1/2 times rad 2. So if we punch that in the calculator, we're going to get the area of one triangle inside that hexagon as roughly 0.35. But since it's a hexagon, there's 6 triangles inside of it. So we're going to multiply 6 times the 0.35, which tells us that the area of the whole hexagon is 2.60. Okay? We're going to fill in the table, that little strip of paper that you have, for all of them. For A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, okay? It's going to look, and I might have to shrink this. Let me go, yeah, I'm going to have to shrink it. Whoop, wrong way. There we go. Right about there. We're going to analyze this data. So jumping down to question number 78, it says analysis of data. With your team, you're going to analyze the data collected. What do you predict the area will be for a regular polygon with infinitely many sides? What do you predict its perimeter will be? So what you're going to notice is that as the number of sides increases, once it starts getting up to 10, 15, 30, What do you notice about the numbers here? They're continuing to stay at 3.14 something, something, something. So it's roughly, the area is approximately going to be 3.14 inches. The same thing's going to happen with the perimeter. It's going to start getting closer and closer to what we call approximately 6.28 units. And part B asks the question, what shape does a regular polygon with infinitely many sides resemble? So as you keep adding more and more sides to a polygon, it starts to look more and more like a circle. Because they get flatter and flatter and flatter and flatter. Once you get a huge, huge polygon with lots and lots of sides, it's going closer and closer to a circle, which 3.14 is related to the circle. How? In that it's close to pi, right? Pi, which is question C. Does the number 3.14 look familiar? You should say yes, it looks very familiar to me. It's going to be very close to pi, pronounced Pi, right? Anybody still writing? At the top of page 18 is titled Area and Circumference of a Circle. Now that you know the area and circumference, or what we call the perimeter of a circle with a radius of 1 unit, how can you determine the area and circumference of a circle with a radius? When we're done, you guys can go on the e-tool. It's pretty cool. It grows and shrinks a circle for you. It's pretty neat. Part A says, what is the relationship between any two circles? Explain how you know. Okay? Circles are all similar. They all have the same basic shape, right? A circle versus a circle versus a tiny little circle. They all have the same basic shape, right? They're just getting bigger or smaller, okay? That's what we call a dilation. So you can translate the center, meaning if we pick up this small circle, move it over so that this center is on top of this center, then we can dilate it, make it bigger so that it would match up with this one, okay? Or we can pick up this one, move it over, translate it so that the center matches up, and shrink it. So dilating can either make it grow or make it shrink, okay? How is this related to what we did yesterday? So part B says, refer to the circles at right. What is the ratio of the circumference of the perimeters, and what is the ratio of their areas? So this is the lesson we looked at yesterday, lesson 832. And it says, first we want the ratio of the radius. So the radius on this one is 1. The radius on this one is 3. So we say 1 to 3. Then if we look at the ratio of their circumferences, which is like the perimeter, it's also 1 to 3. So this should be same. Then it wants the area, or the ratio of the areas. The areas are going to be squared. So 1 squared is 1. 3 squared is 9. So just like yesterday when we were looking at polygons, circles are going to be the same way. We're going to have same squared, just like we saw on yesterday's lesson. So on question C, where it asks if the area of a circle has a radius of 1 unit is a pi square unit, what is the area of a circle with radius 3? Okay. How about a radius of 10? Or a radius with r? Okay. So if you have a radius of 3 and you want its ratio of its area, you're going to take this 3, you're going to square it to get 9, and it'll be 9 pi units squared. If you have a radius of 10, you're going to take the 10, you're going to square it to get 100, and you'll have a ratio of 100 pi units squared. Any number, which we're going to use a variable, call it r, you could use x or m, whatever variable you like. Your whatever variable or number it is, you're going to square it and say that it's the number squared, pi units squared. Okay? That's the ratio of the areas for a circle. Any questions on C? All right, the last question, D, says likewise, if the circumference or the perimeter of a circle with a radius of 1 is 2 pi units, what is the circumference of a circle with a radius of 3 units? It should be the same, right? So if we take, if 1 is 2, then 3, we're going to multiply by 2, and it's going to be 2 pi units. If you have 7, a radius of 7, we're going to multiply it by 2, and it's going to be 14 pi units. Anytime you have any number, radius, or variable, you're going to multiply it by 2 and call it 2r pi units.